everybody, welcome back to another episode of Missional Mamas. I'm so glad to have you here, and today we have a wonderful guest, Abigail. I'm so excited to have you here, Abby, and this is our first time really meeting, so I can't wait for you to tell me your story and some of your background on the mission field, and just to chat a bit about mumhood and life as a missionary. So welcome.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting to get to share a bit about my story and about my children.
Yeah, so could you share with us a little bit about what you do, where you live, and what you do and what your family... Oh, actually, sorry, we have an icebreaker question. I almost forgot. I like to do a little icebreaker before we start, so we can kind of get a little vibe going. So I've been doing a question about music, but I think I'm going to switch it up. So today I'd like to ask, if you got an Amazon package at your front door tomorrow and it was just a mystery package, what do you hope is in it?
I want the new iPhone because it's never going to happen for me. I would love it, only because I use my phone so much, but because we're on low income, I have a very old, really old generation Samsung that's really slow, frustratingly slow. So I would just love a really decent phone. That would make me very, very happy.
I feel that, yeah. I understand very, very much. That would be so good. Well, so share with us.
Sorry.
No, go.
No, there was a competition actually recently in the town, and one of the prizes was the new iPhone. But a friend of mine, she won the first prize, which was 7-night stay in a 5-star hotel in Italy.
What?
Yeah, wow. I know.
Oh my goodness.
She just found that out yesterday. But I said, I think I would have liked the iPhone, but...
Yeah, at least you get to keep the iPhone, right?
Yeah, but then still, what an amazing prize to win.
That's amazing. Oh, how beautiful. What an adventure.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a bit about us and why we live in a place called Siem Reap, which is part of Cambodia. It is well known because it's a tourist town. So it's near Angkor Wat, which is the biggest spiritual monument in the world. So many people visit just to see Angkor Wat, pagoda. I've been so many times, I can't even count how many times I've been. When I tell my children now that we're going to Angkor Wat with guests, they are so upset because they don't ever want to go again, just because it's so hot and exhausting, and they've done it 20 times. So we moved here 6 years ago, just before COVID hit the world, and we initially moved to Phnom Penh, which is the capital of Cambodia, so that we could learn the language and the culture and prepare ourselves for what we felt God had called us to do. And then COVID, we've been here 3 months, and that's when COVID really hit. And so that meant we were stuck effectively in the country. And so for the first 2.5 years, we didn't leave Cambodia at all, which actually was really a good thing, because we got to really embed ourselves in the life and really learn the language. But it was difficult for the children, when they realized, this means we're not going to be going to visit our family, are we, for X amount of time. I think for my oldest child, that was really, really difficult, and I definitely felt guilt over that, and I felt sad that I couldn't give her an answer, when will we see them again. And it also meant, of course, people couldn't visit us, and so I think that was a real challenge for her. My youngest daughter, she was 5, so she adapted really well. It's so important when you go on the mission field, if possible, to go when they're as young as possible. It's just so much better. The child will adapt so much more. Whenever I see people move here with teenagers, the teenagers are usually quite resentful, quite upset. They feel like they've been prized away from everything they know, and it can really cause a lot of sadness and difficulty for people, and a lot of people don't end up staying very long in that situation. So one of the things that was good for us is that we had an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. But what we actually came to do was to start a church. That's what we thought God had called us to do. and I'll tell you a bit more about how he spoke to us, and he told us to come and plant a dual language Khmer English speaking church in Siem Reap, and that's what we've done. So we actually officially started the church 3 years ago. This February will be our 3rd anniversary. And the church grew way faster than we ever imagined. There was a vacuum because unfortunately there were only Cambodian speaking churches, or really there wasn't really anything for foreigners. So many missionaries didn't really have anywhere to attend unless they went to a Cambodian speaking church. So a lot of the missionaries came to join us, but then our Khmer community grew quite quickly, our local community, because if a local likes your church, they'll then come back the next week with their cousins and their aunties and their sisters and their brothers, and that's how it works here. So we do have a very large church, so that we nearly almost have regularly, regular attendances, just under 200 adults, and the children, 90 children. And wow. Everything we do is in both, and that's a lot. But we have 4 children's work groups, and everything we do is in both languages. We sing in the local language, but we also sing in English, preach in English or Khmer and translate. So we absolutely love our community. And then I'm also a teacher, so I felt God called me to he told me, I want you to go and teach the children who live on the dump, on the tip, in Siem Reap province. And I said, oh God, I don't even know where that is, and I haven't got the money, and I haven't got the staff. And so I said, okay, God, if that's what you want me to do, I'll do it, but I need, X, Y, and Z. And then X, Y, and Z just was given to me. So an organisation said, hey, we want to give you £10,000
wow.
to bless people. And I was like, oh, I know what God wants us to do with that. So we partnered up with another organisation who have an amazing community centre out. It's about 50 minutes from where I live out there, and we now teach just under we have 115 students, and we're teaching them English so that they can get a decent job in Siem Reap town when they're older, instead of currently the average family, because they're just going through the trash, the rubbish, and then getting recyclables. The average family are getting about $4 a week. So this is a really difficult life. The village is very, very poor. They've really struggled to break out of the cycle of poverty. So I'm really very, very grateful that we've been able to do that. And that charity has now been going for 2.5 years. I have 4 fully paid Khmer local staff. I have 7 incredible regular volunteers, and we're just about to expand what we're doing actually to the preschool students, which is really, really exciting. And their English is incredible. So when they first came to us, they barely knew how to say, how are you? And now they're speaking in full sentences. We're teaching them how to work in a hotel or how to work in a restaurant. And we also share the gospel with them, but we don't force them to pray, and we don't force them to do anything, but we're just planting seeds in their hearts. So that's where we're at the minute. But perhaps I should also just sort of explain a bit about why God told us to come specifically to Siem Reap.
Great, that would be my next question.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking it's helpful to know the journey behind, and it's quite an amazing story when I think about it, because sometimes I forget. So my husband was leading a church in the UK, and the church was going really well. Things were very settled. We just adopted our second daughter. So our first daughter I gave birth to her. Second daughter is adopted. She came to live with us when she was 4 weeks old. Everything had just kind of settled down in life. The church was going well. And then we went to a conference, a Christian conference, and my husband came back from the talk or the evening meeting and said, I think God's calling us to plant a church in Cambodia. And I was quite annoyed, if I'm honest, because it's like, what do you mean? I love the idea of going and serving God abroad, but what about everything here and everyone here and all the rest of the question? And I also thought, never be able to learn that language, or this is just, I just felt immediately in my own humanness, it was a no from me. But I trust my husband, and I know God speaks to him. So over the coming weeks or the weeks after that, I was praying and I said, okay, God, if there really is, you are really speaking to us about moving to Cambodia, and please will you show me supernaturally. And so we were at another event with our youth group, a Christian camp, and I'd gone into our tent and I said, okay, God, I pray someone will bring up the nation of Cambodia in a random conversation with me today, and that will be a sign that this is something you're talking to us about. And bear in mind that in the UK, people don't even know where Cambodia is. Some people think we live in Africa. You know, often people say, oh, which part of Africa is it? And I'm like, no, it's in Southeast Asia, you know, Thailand, Vietnam. They know those two countries, but little is known about Cambodia. So there's never a reason for someone to raise it. And so I came straight out of the tent, went into our communal shared eating space, and a lady from another church said to me, oh, Abby, have you ever been to Cambodia? I was like, no, I've not. I've been to Thailand and Vietnam, but I haven't been to Cambodia. And she said, oh, because my son's traveling and I know you've done some traveling before. And then her husband, who is a bit of an encyclopedia, I sat down a bit shocked, sat next to him, and he said, oh, Abby, I just read a book about Cambodia, some missionary family that had gone to serve God there. And it was really fascinating. It's a fascinating country, he was saying to me. And he said, it's amazing the places people will go for God, isn't it? And I was like, yeah, it is. It is amazing. And obviously at that point I couldn't tell him what was going through my head. And so I called my husband and said, can you come back? I need to tell you something. And so we then approached our group of churches who were looking to start this church plant. So they sent us. It wasn't just us doing it on our own. And they commissioned us and support us. So we went to them and they said, well, go and visit, see if you like Siem Reap, see if you like Cambodia, see if you could live there. So we came out in 2017 and we loved it. Of course we did. It's a tourist town. We got to go and see really cool things. The weather was lovely. The food was nice. I mean, what's not to like about a holiday destination? But we met up with a local missionary who is English. A lot of the people said, oh, you should meet up with this guy. And actually he'd been here about 7 years and he was really struggling, which is understandable. I've had times here when it's been difficult too. And he just told us all the reasons why we shouldn't come, all the reasons why our church plant idea was a bad idea. He was saying, oh no, that won't work, and oh, your marriage will be under so much pressure, and you know, you won't be happy, and your children won't thrive, and there's so many sicknesses. And Sam and I, my husband and I, left that meeting so discouraged, and so we ate our dinner in silence because both of us were just going through everything he'd said and thinking, well, he could be right. I mean, how can we know? We don't want to not listen to somebody who's lived in this country or had lived in this country for so long. And so when we went back to the UK, I said to God again, I said, God, please really confirm to us this is what you want, because I know if it's what you want, you'll be with us, you'll go before us, you'll go behind us. I know you'll help us and you'll support the children, but I just really need you to just really confirm this to us because we're scared. And a few weeks later, I had the most powerful dream of my life, and I do sometimes have dreams that I know are from God. And in the dream, I was in a room, and next to me there was a human being, but I didn't know the nationality or the gender of it. I just knew they were a human being. And we walked into a room, and I saw Allah and Vishnu and Buddha, and they were arguing with each other about who was the one true God. And the human said to me, Abby, who is the one true God? And so I prayed, and in that moment the brightest light I've ever seen came into the room. And remember, I am asleep, so much so that I could barely see. And Jesus was there, and Allah and Vishnu and Buddha and me and the human just bowed our knees to him. It was just incredible. But so the light was so intense, I had to wake up, because I was afraid of the light. And so I sat straight up and I woke my husband and I said, I've had this dream. And I said, but why was Allah there? Because Vishnu, yeah, massive part of Cambodian culture, Hinduism, of course Buddhism, the biggest religion in Cambodia. But I said, why like Islam? And Sam said, oh no, there is a whole group of people who were like displaced, moved into Cambodia, and they are all Muslims, and a lot of missionaries go out to work with them. They're called the Jam population. So that's when I knew 100% God was asking us to go and show people who is the one true God. And after that, we planned to come. But it did take us another 2 and a bit years to get here, because of course we needed to find new leadership for our church in the UK. We needed to save money so that we would be secure. And also we needed to, of course, involve our families and help them to come to terms with the fact that we're moving to the other side of the world. So it wasn't until 2019 that we got here, and that's just over 6 years ago. Yeah. So
wow.
There's obviously more to it, but it's too long to describe, you know. Yeah.
Oh, what an incredible story. Wow, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
I'm in awe. Like, I love the way that God has like so clearly helped you discern, but also just like, yeah, I guess it's the same process for a lot of people, where like in our weakness we're so like either hesitant but also just doubting, like it's not in our nature to just be like, yep, okay, I'll go tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And like there's
and
wisdom, you know.
Yeah, it would always be
and he does
to just be like, okay, let's totally like sacrifice everything and move to the other side of the world, you know.
And you know, and he does give us and he does give us that wisdom, and that like the people are surrounding us to like he uses that, all of that. And so it's very beautiful to just see like that he's really been with you from step one, like through the whole journey. How does that help you when you're like leaving everything and kind of moving to the other side of the world and giving up a lot of the luxuries and the privileges and the comforts, I guess, of your home, and even just like, even if it's a nice place to live, like there's difficulties because it's not your own culture, so it's on top of, it's also a difficult place to live. There's a cost, you know. How do you go about counting the cost and preparing yourself to kind of count that cost?
It's a really good question, because of course we look back at how God called us to come here. We look at the fruit of what God's grown through us, which we're so grateful for. We're just human beings, you know, and we've seen God provide and provide and provide for us in a way that I don't think I would have ever experienced if I just stayed living in the UK, because God wouldn't have needed to have provided in the way that he has. And so whenever we've needed anything and we've reached out, God gives us what we need, and through all sorts of people or churches or individuals. And that has been an amazing blessing to live like that and to experience it. But then occasionally we do get a little anxious about things like our pension, because our pension pot is really tiny, and I know a lot of people my age would be horrified to know how little we have in that pot. We know we're going to have to work into our 70s when we eventually move back in order to compensate for the things that the time that we've not been putting money into that pension or other things as well. But again, when I worry about that, I think, no, God has provided absolutely everything we need. We have been so blessed, and he's been so gracious to us. So we just lean on those facts, really, and reassure each other. And but you are right in the sense that there is a cost. So I at one point was extremely sick due to having drunk some water that wasn't clean by accident, obviously, and I got something called giardia, which is where a big have you heard of it?
I've had it.
Really big. Oh, you've had it. It's nasty.
Yeah,
isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Leaves you very weak.
I was so weak. Yeah. So like what are they called? I've forgotten the word for it.
Like a parasite.
the little, yeah, thank you. The parasite embeds itself usually in your small intestine and then basically sucks the life out of you. It reminded me of morning sickness. But I kept getting better, then worse, then better, then worse, because it kind of drains you, then stops draining you. And then, so I didn't know that's what I had. The doctors were really struggling to diagnose me. And so for about 10 weeks, I was so sick. And so then thankfully they worked out what it was, took the medication, got better. But then I had like about a year of eating and then having diarrhea most of the time. And that was very, very difficult to live with. And then thankfully I finally found a doctor who was able to work out why my system had not kind of rebooted. And I had a couple of procedures done because actually my stomach had grown ulcers as a consequence of it. And so they treated and removed some of those, and since then I've been really, really well. But I have a friend who's had to move back to her home country because she just wasn't able to get better. So when those things happen, again, I just remind myself, well, God is for me. He has gone before me. He knew this would happen, and He's provided what I've needed. And no, it took time. Actually, He helped me find that doctor. I know that was Him. He gave me the strength to continue even when it was difficult, and so I look at it and think, no, I learned a lot through that, and I learned to prioritize my health and look after myself. And now I go to the gym regularly, I look after myself, I eat well. I've really transformed the way that I look after myself, and I think that's a really good thing, to come out of such a horrible situation. And then so we just have to remind ourselves of the goodness of God and the grace and the mercy, and His provision is unlimited, isn't it? So that's how we cope with the challenges.
I think in any life stage, like, we have to remind ourselves of the goodness and just the ways that He does provide. And I think I remember from my childhood, or like when we've served on the field, that feeling of there is an intense reliance, and you're right, there is very few things in life that kind of bring you to that point of recognizing how important our dependence on God is, and it really humbles us. And I find myself we are very dependent on God, but I think part of living in where we are at the moment, we have that kind of a bit of a buffer where we're not reliant every day. And so I find there's something to be said for almost putting yourself in that position of, and so I've been kind of trying to figure out, how do you almost force yourself to be so aware of your need for God, so that we don't become comfortable, we don't become just comfortable with everything that's convenient around us, or that sets itself up for our own comfort and our own safety and everything, and just reminding ourselves we need Him. And so I've been trying to learn how to fast more, and learn how to increase that dependence, or just at least the awareness of my dependence, and realizing that it is every day. I need to go to Him every day. No matter where I am, no matter what life stage I'm at, I need Him more for every single day. It's every moment of every day, even though the world is constantly telling me that I don't, and that I can do this in my own strength. And it's just, it's hard. It's really, really hard to constantly push against that. And so I've found that there's struggles whether you're in actual desperation, or you need to be reminded that you're in desperation,
Absolutely. And I do worry about going back to the UK and going back to probably a reasonably well-paid job, and a car that doesn't break down every 3 minutes like our car does, and the things that happen. And I can't imagine how I'm going to cope, or even how the children are going to cope. I think it's going to be a lot harder going that way than it was coming this way. And our life is so interesting, it's never boring. You know, there's never, every day is eventful. There's so much to experience, sometimes enjoy and other times endure. And I kind of feel like, oh, will we be really bored when we go back to the UK? Like, Cambodians are really fun people. And I'm an extrovert,
they
so
are.
I love being around them. And they're so just playful and lovely and encouraging. And I love speaking a second language now with, you know, with confidence. And it's such a privilege, isn't it? And I think also living here has taught me to be generous with what I have and to share what I have and not be afraid to share. And because I think at one point, I was a good Christian girl that would give my 10% to church or whatever most of the time. But I didn't really understand the richness and the joy of really sharing what you have. And there's so much need here that it's just, of course you're going to share, you know, even if you don't have a lot, it doesn't matter to me, I'm going to share. And it feels like such a privilege. And so, it is a joy to be living in this way, even though it's difficult. And of course there have been many challenges, and it's like my children are definitely, it's been difficult, but in other ways they've gained so much, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And their lives have been so enriched, even in ways they don't realise yet, but one day they will, you know. But it's even things like just how amenable they are and how adaptable and how loving they are to people, no matter what their background is. That's a beautiful thing to see in your children, isn't it? And that's because we've lived in this multicultural town, actually.
Talk to me about your kids and how did they process that leaving, and then and I guess like during COVID that surely was not easy.
Not at all.
How did you handle all of that?
Well, they both had to be not homeschooled, to learn from home. For like, I think it was 10 months strong. Like, we never had to suffer quite like other countries in that they didn't let us go out, or we were still allowed to go to restaurants, we were still allowed to go shopping, we were still allowed to see our friends. They never did a lockdown. I'm not sure how that happened, but it did. And so we had loads more freedom than our friends in the UK, or my family in the UK. But then the schools all shut. They really went hard on shutting the schools, and they'd shut them for 10 months. And I'm a teacher, so I was teaching online.
Okay, right.
And my children, but I would go into the school and teach online at school.
Were they at the international school?
Actually, this was a Cambodian school. But I taught maths in the English language. It's a really cool school, actually, because the children get to learn both the full English curriculum and the Cambodian curriculum.
Oh, wow.
And it's a Christian school. So
That's
when
amazing.
the children leave, they leave with amazing opportunities. It's called Asian Hope International School. I'll give it a shout out. Best school I ever worked in. Loved it. And for me, COVID wasn't so bad because I still got to go to work. I still got to see some colleagues. We really bonded during that time. I think that was one of my favourite times of my life, because me and the team were so close. It was lovely. But my poor kids, like my husband was working from home, and he basically had to supervise them every day, going on their little mini laptops and doing online lessons. And it was really tough for them. It was really tough. But what helped a lot was we lived in an area where there were a lot of little missionary kids. And so our whole street was practically all missionaries, which is obviously really unusual situation, but it was the way it was in that area because everyone wanted to be near to the schools. And so they were able to play out every day with their friends. They had like quite a lovely group of them, and they again really bonded. So I think without that they would have felt very isolated, but thankfully because we had those lovely people and because we were still allowed to meet up with friends, that helped. But then on the flip side, because of COVID, they made lovely friends, and then guess what? They left and they never came back. So they didn't say, "Oh, we're never coming back." They just said, "We're going to go for now," and I understood that. But in that process, they made the decision to stay in their home countries, and so the loss, especially for the oldest daughter, who was very sentimental, the loss really hurt because she is extremely close to my nephews and her cousins, and that was the biggest loss for her, as well as family members, obviously, and a few very good friends. She's so relational, she just loves people, and she definitely felt hurt, and I think she was a little bit angry with us in some ways for a while, and I can understand that, and we'll acknowledge that. And now she's 14, and she is a lovely, beautiful young lady. She is an amazing musician. She writes her own songs. She actually gets booked to do gigs in Siem Reap and gets paid for them. I know.
Wow.
She's recording so much. She's got an amazing music teacher. She's got a stunning voice, like, honestly, just such a beautiful gift from God. And she uses it so well at church as well. She's in the band, you know, and all those things. I'd love her to lead worship, but she doesn't feel quite ready to do so, but she will soon enough. She's got a lovely local boyfriend. It's not, you know, like, they're really young, but he's just lovely. She says now that she's grown in her faith, she knows God did call us to come here, and it was the right thing to do. Would she choose, if she could go back in time, she doesn't know how to answer the question. Would you have preferred to have stayed in the UK and done life there, or would you have preferred to have come to Cambodia? She can't answer that question because she's not sure what the answer is, because she sees now the benefits of both places. And they go to a very good British international school. It's just it's not a Christian school, but they've got loads of lovely friends, both of them, at their schools, you know, and they've done very well academically. In fact, I think going to an international school, which is smaller, is way easier than going to school in the UK. I hated high school for the first 2 years with the teasing and the, you know, from boys and stuff like that. And so they haven't had to go through any of those transitions. So in some ways they've been able to skip some of the horrible elements of being a teenager, but then they've also they felt that they've missed out, you know, especially the older one. Whereas the younger one, she's like so amenable, and she's blonde, very, very pale skinned, but if you cut her open, she's Cambodian all the way on the inside. You know, she loves this country. She loves the people. She'll play out on the street with the Cambodian children all the time. You know, she's been able to have a lot more freedom here because, you know, she can go out and play with them safely. She speaks like Pidgin Khmer. It's very, very funny. She has ADHD, but because Cambodians are pretty chilled with their kids, no one really
notices,
like, makes comments. But sort of the foreigners notice and they know, but the Cambodians are just like, she's just a kid. I'm like, actually. And she's amazing. But she's adopted, and so she knows about that, of course. So one day we're going to need to support her to meet her birth family, which is up to her, but I think she will. And so that's another transition that she's going to have to go through, that we're really going to have to pray about and ask God to help us with, so that we do it in the right way, and He gives us wisdom about when and how that would be, you know, when it would be a good time to do so. So she's got an extra element, you know, of change for the future, but I would say she's more accepted as a person in Cambodia than she would have been in the UK. And I think, interesting, isn't it? And actually she's got a lovely self-esteem. She's got a lovely, fun personality. Like we always say, I don't think there's a debt. Ruby's always happy. She's like the happiest person. Jumping around. I mean, they frustrate each other, the two still like my two daughters, but they are such enjoyable people. And so I do still suffer with guilt though, that we may be taking things away from them that they should have had. I also suffer with the feeling of responsibility for when we go back, and if that's going to be, how are we going to handle that, and have we got the skills to do it, you know? And I do suffer from mummy guilt 100%. But then again, living here, my husband and I have flexibility in our days, so we actually get to spend more time with our children than if we'd been working in full-time jobs back in the UK. So there is that element, which is really lovely, you know. And so you can see there's so many benefits, but there's also that the loss of really mostly it's the frientships that my oldest daughter has missed. It's the people. It's not the
and the
place.
family.
Definitely the family. And you know, and also my husband's father passed away 3 years ago of a stroke, and that was just such a shock, and it was so hard that we weren't there. But we did go back, of course, for the funeral, but it was just heartbreaking. My father actually now has stage 4 cancer, although the immunotherapies work really well, but it is incurable. But he does have at least 5 more years to live, they say. But that's also really difficult for my children, you know.
So hard.
For me. And I feel guilty that we're not there, you know, at this point. But at the same time, we thank God for the fact that we can use the internet to communicate. And I think back on like Hudson Taylor and like what I call real missionaries, and like they have no real, you know what I mean, like the true missionaries, the ones that took their coffins on the boats. They are the ones I'm like, hats off to them, because they really had to give up their relationships. We haven't had to do that. We've still been able to maintain lots of contact, and for that I'm very, very grateful. I wonder if we wouldn't have done it if that wasn't an option. I don't know honestly. So I respect you know, those old time missionaries, and I read all their biographies when I was younger because I found them the most inspiring, and I wanted to be like them, but I would never claim that I'm anything near to them. I'm just a normal person doing what God's called us to do. You know?
I was just thinking about like Hudson Taylor and some of those that did like that went just so, you know, Jackie Pullinger, and you know, they just went, okay, God, and they just went, you know. And I mean, before we were talking about like, well, you have to be almost daft to do that, and I think there's an element of that, like there's like, and maybe in some ways like God has created them with that personality to just jump in and forsake the, you know, the wisdom or the like what people are saying, and people did. They said, you're crazy, like what are you doing, and you're forsaking your family, you're forsaking this. And I think about, to be honest, I think about Paul, where he just says like, I consider it all to be garbage in comparison to knowing Jesus and him crucified, and like I consider everything as a loss compared to knowing him. And I think that there's, you know, the kingdom it's an upside down kingdom, and sometimes it's easy to forget that and easy to hear what the world says, and you know, but it is true, like God does call us to each different thing, and sometimes that's to jump straight in with 2 feet, not looking, and sometimes that is to, you know, do it for the long haul. And I think I'm more on the like the long haul kind of, as much as my personality is probably to just be like, let's jump in and let's be crazy and do this. I mean, I've got 4 kids, and you have to think about that, but you also have to think about, I don't want to just go and burn out and then return 3 months later or a year later and be like, well, we gave it a good shot. But I want to do something that's going to last until God calls me elsewhere, you know? And so I'm not just going, totally. And then where you were saying about, like, with your kids, there's both the good things that they have got and the difficulties. I mean, I so relate, because I'm like your oldest daughter, where I couldn't answer that question of, like, if you could have it the other way, like, growing up, I actually grew up in Thailand, so like very similar to Cambodia, and I can't quite ever answer that, because yes, like there might have been different relationships, there might have been other opportunities and other benefits, right? I might have had a very different life, but I don't think I would ever trade what I was able to have.
I don't think she would.
And I think at the time I probably saw it, and when I was a teenager I probably saw it as loss, and it wasn't. I grew up there, like it wasn't. I hadn't moved there. I just it was more of like, well, this is what people get back home, like, or this is what other people, have the options for, the ability for, and like missionaries are never rich, and so you're always like, well, why do my family have this, or why do but the older I got, the more I went, I would never trade like being able to get an iPhone or being able to get this, that, or the other, and have this lifestyle, which I can compare that now because my husband was like born and bred in like the same town, like same little place in Sydney his whole life. And so I almost compare like, wow, like that would have been the life that I had, right? And I say I would never have given even like a year of what I got to have that life. Like all of it is so beautiful, and all of it shaped me to who I am and gave me so many invaluable, like absolutely priceless experiences. And I think there's, if kids are going to resent, I think there's other things going on. In complete honesty.
And I growing up.
It is really. And I heard something years ago that I have held on to, and I cannot for the life of me remember where I heard it, but I loved the phrase. It was a family that were pastoring, and they traveled a lot for their ministry, and they called it privilege and price with their kids, where they said to their kids all the time, they said, you get to have the privileges, you get to have a lot of privileges and experiences that no one else gets, but there is a price with it. And so they would emphasize it whenever they were doing something. Hey kids, is this a privilege or is this a price? And I remember thinking, that is such a good way to like frame it, because with everything in life, there is a privilege and a price, but kids will never see the privilege if you don't point it out, but they also won't feel like you see the price unless you point it out, that we get it, like this, there is a price to this, and we understand there's a cost. And yes, you have to pay that. And there is guilt. There is,
There is
and I
guilt,
think
but it's not it doesn't overwhelm me. But it's
it's one of those things you have to like, I think, let God like just really hold. I think it's not necessarily something that goes away. I think you just have to let God hold it, really.
Yes, exactly. Cast it to him. I love that, because I'll definitely be using those words now, privilege and a price. And I think it's so important to acknowledge their price. And like you said, point out the privilege. And I do know they're able to recognise privilege. They do know that, in that they've had such a rich experience of life, but it's really important, what I think, so as a missionary mum, to acknowledge the price and to say, yes, I understand. Even if I don't fully agree, even if they're being a bit like
entitled or
a little bit, or a little bit like exaggerating a little bit, I don't point
but what
that
kid
out.
doesn't?
I just say,
what kid doesn't do that?
And raising teenagers is never going to be an easy job anyway, and it's something, of course, we make mistakes as parents anyway. And so I just think, I've realised with my oldest daughter especially, if I kind of try to adjust her feelings, or say, well, hold on, it just makes it worse for her. She just needs me to say, I understand, I get it, I know this has not been completely easy for you. But if I start then saying, but you've got this and you've got that and you've got the other, that is not what she needs in that moment. She just needs me to acknowledge this is a bit difficult. And then on another occasion, I'll say, hey, isn't it great that you have this or you've had this opportunity, like in a different context? Because otherwise she feels like I'm undermining her feelings. And I think it's really important to not do that and just to let her have them. Even, like I said, if I feel like, oh, you're being a bit dramatic there, but then I can be dramatic too, so it's okay. Yeah. And so, whereas the little one, she never really, I don't think she knows what she gave up, or because she
Yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
she
hard
wasn't
to
so
know what you
attached.
miss. Yeah.
Yeah, but and also when we go back to the UK, the problem is we go back and it's all lovely, and you get to eat this great food, and you
Oh,
see all these lovely people, and
absolutely.
everyone gives you a present, and you know
Yes.
you get all this attention. But if when you
Yes.
go back and do real life, when you go
Yes.
back and be a UK person, you know, living in the
Yeah.
UK, it's
Very
not going to be
different.
like that. No,
No.
and I think that's one of the things that they haven't been able to
Yeah.
understand. So when we
Yeah.
went back last year for quite a short trip, they were both like, "Oh, but we love England." I said, "Well, that." I did actually say, "Well, we've just done nice things, haven't we? You know."
Yeah.
But then,
It's
you know,
like you've been
this
on a long
Christmas we got to.
holiday.
Exactly. For them it is, and for me it's actually just exhausting because I love seeing people, but it's just telling the same story over and over, and I get bored of myself, you know. But I love seeing my people. But you know, we've been so blessed in that we've been able to go on holiday to Bali this Christmas
Yeah.
because the cost of it was the equivalent of
Oh,
like a
so
camping trip in the
close.
UK.
Yeah.
You know, we've been lucky to go to Thailand, and they
Yeah.
loved it. How
Yeah.
many kids in the UK have been able to go
Yeah.
to Bali and Thailand and
Yeah.
you know, swim in an ocean full of beautiful Nemos. We saw dolphins in Bali, you know.
Oh,
And they
wow.
do know these things
Yeah.
are amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, part of me wonders if both of them will end up living abroad somewhere someday,
Yeah.
because, or they might
Yeah.
not, because this gets under your skin in a way that you don't even realize it
Yeah.
until maybe later on, and they've got to move into adulthood. And so the older daughter is a Christian. She has been baptized. She really, really loves God and takes her faith, you know, she takes it really seriously, and I love that. She reads her Bible more than I do, honestly. The younger one, she's funny, so she'll stand at church and not sing a word of the songs, just stands there, and then she'll come home and then she'll be singing away to herself all of these worship songs, and we'll hear her and be kind of giggling. And so her relationship is one with God that's definitely evolving in different
Yeah.
ways. So I often hear her singing things like, God loves me, I love God, you know, little cute things like that. So she's definitely grasped the gospel, or
Yeah.
most of it, but I wouldn't say necessarily she's yet made that definite decision to be
Yeah.
a Christian. But
Yeah.
I could see that happening, definitely.
Yeah.
And she's been surrounded by really nice Christian people as well, which has
Yeah.
been lovely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think that's been a blessing for both of them, in the sense that they've been able to grow their own personal faith. Yeah, and be part of what we do, you know.
Yeah. So
It's not just me and
special.
my husband, actually, they've been part of this, and it's not easy. And now, of course, there are times when people complain or people don't like something we've done, and some people struggle with the fact that we're dual language, and some would prefer us to be just one language, not both. And I understand, but we're following what God asked us to do, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's times like that that I think even the girls are like, oh, don't people like, you know, like what we're doing? I said, well,
Yeah.
wherever you are, in whatever situation, there's always going to be some people who want things different, and that's okay, you know,
It's the
that's
same
okay.
in every church. I
Yeah,
assume that's very similar to
exactly.
what you had in the UK.
Exactly, it's the same.
Every
It's
church,
exactly the
someone's
same
going to
thing.
complain. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you can't
It
please
can feel
everybody.
quite personal. Yeah, it can feel
Yeah.
quite personal, but
Yeah.
you can't allow that to, you just can't allow that to,
Yeah.
you can't think like
Yeah.
that. And, you know,
Yeah.
you just need to continue to love people, and not absorb information as if it was some, you know, criticism of you, even if it is, you know, like, because actually that's not helpful for
Yeah.
the relationship that I want to have with people, is a positive one, you know, as
Yeah.
much as possible. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that sometimes they themselves overhear comments and they're like, oh, you know, so
Yeah.
that's quite hard
That's
between as well,
hard.
because I don't always
Yeah.
want them to be exposed to
Yeah.
such adult things, but it's just part, they would have been done the same thing in the UK, probably.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, in that
Exactly.
sense, I think, oh, okay, that's not so bad then. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think overall, well, I know overall, this has been an incredible, and is an
Yeah.
incredible life that they've got to live. But
Yeah.
And I think they know that, but I think when they are adults is when it will really click, like it did for you. Like, wow, I wouldn't actually change those incredible experiences that I had. And actually recently we've had, well, in the last few years we've had loads more visitors from the UK, and that's always a massive blessing to them and to us. And I think like being able to show their world to people who are from their other world has been really lovely. And and we have a team here right now, and they're just so lovely and encouraging, and you know, they see how busy we are, but how rewarding life can be. And you know, all the things that the children think are normal in life, like you see like people sitting on the roof of a car, and there's 8 people on top of it, you know, and that's just normal. Or these tiny skinny little cows, and that's just normal. Or you know, people walking around naked, that's sometimes normal. Like, it's just like mostly children.
I remember having like
I
remember having like families visit, and us like piling into the back of our station wagon into like the boot of the station wagon, and me just going like, that's totally normal to have like 7 kids in the back. And they're going, but what about seatbelts and car seats and danger? And I'm going, this is great. I'm a bit squished, but this is great. And just those like, there's a dissonance, and you just have this like, but it's something very beautiful to be able to share. And I think that is such a good thing about like the fact that we are in much more of a globalized society, where we can kind of have people come and share, and it brings so much meaning to their support as well. I think that them putting like sort of contextualizing what you do and where you are, and it brings so much more to them supporting you and partnering with you. But also for you, like, what a blessing to have, to be able to share like, this is what life is like. And it's hard to show that through photos. It's really hard, and it's hard to explain some of the things. Like you could spend an entire book explaining what one day is like in Cambodia. And yet someone can just come and experience it with you and go, wow, like I actually get some of what you're talking about now. I get some of what you're like grappling with, and some of what you're experiencing. And it's joyful to have that connection. It's really beautiful.
It really is a blessing, isn't it? And that's like being a modern missionary. I don't even like to call it a missionary, if I'm honest, but like it's not what it once was, but it still has its like price, doesn't it, like you said. And when someone comes and sees that, usually they then go, oh, we're going to increase our support for you, because they see what's needed. You know, they say, oh, I'd like to support your students in the village more, or you know, because when you really see it, you realize, oh wow, this is a big deal.
This is real. It's real.
This is and then I forget that how like amazing it is to run this charity here in Cambodia. And then when people come and see it and say, wow, this is so cool that you get to do this, I think, oh you're right, it is. I am so privileged, you know. Like, but I'm like, this because this is what I do all the time. I forgot, you know, this massive privilege I've been given, you know. And so it's really important for me as well, and for my husband, to reflect and go, yes, thank you, God, you've been very, very gracious to us, you know. It's like, and I've also gone through early menopause being in Cambodia, and I'm only 42, but I knew I was in it 100% and really struggling with my mental health at one point. Like last year, I was very up and down, and that wasn't nice at all, but that would have happened whether I was here or not. But finding the right doctor to help me was really difficult. In the end, I had to turn to a doctor in Phnom Penh, which is 5 hours away from here. But now that I'm on the medication, it's like I've been renewed into the person that I was. And I'm just so grateful. But it's things like that we take for granted. If I'd been in the UK, I would have been able to go to the doctor, have blood tests done. They would have believed me. I would have had the medication. Instead, I had to spend over a year fighting for what I knew I needed. And so again, it's the price you pay. But having said that, would I change anything about my knowing that? Would I choose not to come here? No way. I would go through it because it's worth it, because the privilege of teaching these beautiful children and the hope that they're going to have a much better future is enough for me to make that not particularly enjoyable process worth it. And I think but we live in a beautiful country too. Like the view I can see right now is stunning. You know, I don't have probably paler than you because I don't go in the sun because it's it's weird. I just avoid it at all costs now. Whereas I used to want to get a tan, but now I'm like no. And and just like it is a beautiful place to live, and and that's like Thailand is gorgeous, isn't it? You know, and the ocean and the scenery is beautiful. You know, my children have been able to go to an elephant sanctuary, and you know, and spend time with elephants who've been rescued from tourism. I mean, how many kids get to say that? You know, so there's so many things as we're talking about. I'm thinking, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. You know, so I wouldn't change anything. I don't think my husband would, and actually, ultimately, I don't think the children would. I think the children will say, "No, we're glad we did that." And also, I try to remind them that you were called too. You weren't like, you are also part of this journey. You are also a blessing to others, and you are being blessed. And actually, you know, God didn't just say, "Oh, Sam and Abby, you go to Cambodia." Actually, our whole family was called to Cambodia, and God had both of them in mind when that was happening, you know, and so he has again provided for what they've needed, and I'm just so grateful for that, and I want them to know that they've made a difference here as well to other people, and I want them to be proud of themselves for that, because we want all of our children to grow to be generous and kind, and don't we, and to love other people, and I think living here, that's a very easy thing to do. You know, loving people here is really straightforward. You know, so we have the privilege of doing that all the time. So really grateful for that.
Absolutely. If you could give one piece of advice to a mum that is trying to live, like whether she's on the field or not, whether she's just either in ministry or not, but just living out a life that is missional, that wants to live out the gospel in every day. If you could give one piece of advice to finish up, what would it be?
It would be to understand that there's no perfect mother. We're all going to make mistakes. And I think sometimes people expect, you know, missionaries or church people in church leadership or to somehow be better at this stuff, including motherhood. And that's not necessarily true, you know, at all. In fact, I know I've made mistakes as a mum, and I'm sad about that, but also I'm always learning. So I think I was speaking to someone at some point, and I was saying how I feel like I'm just not a great mum sometimes, and in the sense that I didn't think I was giving them enough time, or, you know, that kind of thing at one point. And she just said, you know, Abby, there's no perfect mum. You're pressuring yourself so much, and you're making this role so stressful that it's getting in the way of you, you know, having more time with them or enjoying them. And it's so important that you take that pressure off and give it up to God and ask Him to be with you as you parent your children and to give you wisdom. So that would be my biggest advice: is don't expect yourself to be magic mum or super mum. Be aware that we're still sinners as parents, and we're still going to make mistakes. Say sorry when we need to, of course, to our children and to God, and just give our, you know, and make sure that they are still a priority. You know, our ministry shouldn't take over. You know, our responsibility to our children. Our children are so important. They are a gift from God. He's blessed us with them, and I feel that it's quite easy to get sucked into so much stuff, and then actually it's okay to have boundaries and say, no, I can't do that because I need to save that time for my children. And I think that's really important. In any life, in any job, in any position, you're you're doing the right thing to give time to your children. And you know, even though there's so many people in need and there's so many more things I could do, I've had to say no sometimes because of my kids.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Do you I just wonder if you'd like to just share your charity name again, so that if anyone would like to go and have a look and maybe give towards it.
So we're on Facebook, because I'm one of those people that's not even on Instagram. Apparently Facebook is for old people these days, but I like it. And so our page is, our charity name is Devoted to Cambodia, but our Facebook is our surname is Littles, so Littles in Cambodia, and then in brackets it says Devoted to Cambodia. I'd love to have more followers on there. It's just great to share what we're doing and how things are going, and just I love being able to share the exciting stories of different things on there, and I love being able to get the feedback from and the support from other people and the encouragement. So if anybody's listened to this and would like to get in touch, then they're very, very welcome to, and they can message me on there if they themselves are interested in Cambodia or they're going to another nation and they're just like a little bit of advice. Always here to very, very happy to talk to people.
Great. Yeah, I'll pop the link in the description below.
Thank you. Oh, that would be really
can
great.
Reach out. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing and opening up and just sharing your wisdom. And I just love getting to hear from mums around the world and from different walks of life, whatever it is. And I just love that there's like that one thing that, you know, we serve King Jesus, and you know, that really does bring us together. You know, it's just it's beautiful. I love the breadth of life and experience and wisdom and journeys, and it's just beautiful. So thank you again.
Well, thank you, and thanks for creating this space for people to share what they are experiencing. I think that's, like, as you know, as a missionary kid, it's important to be able to share and to hopefully encourage others, isn't it? So definitely. How old were you when you left Thailand? I wasn't sure.
When I was 13, I started going to boarding school in India. So I was actually, traveling back and forth. And then when I was about 17, my parents moved away from Thailand. So I think when I was 17, I had like my last visit to Thailand, as like they had their home and their house and everything there. And then I've been back multiple times since, but not to my home, you know. So I moved there when I was 5. And I had been, and we had been in Bangladesh before that. So I was like, from 9 months old, I was just on the field with only like one or 2 years here and there in Australia. And then, so and then I was 18 when I moved back here. So it was very like, very, very different. But, and then we served in Mexico for a year when in 2020 something 2021 or 2022, just after COVID. So and then we're hoping to serve again, but we're just in that waiting on the Lord, waiting on his okay. So
exciting. I'll keep in touch, and
definitely.
Maybe God will talk to you about Cambodia.
Oh gosh, I have asked God many, many times to allow us to move to Cambodia, and it is always a resounding no. I know. I hope so. We think we're going to be in the Middle East, but we wanted to move to either to Thailand or Cambodia, and we prayed a lot about it, and really we had a big heart for working with women in the sex industry. We had a heart for like trafficking, and I even visited, the first time I ever came to Cambodia was as an adult, on a trip, kind of going, should I maybe like suss out whether this is somewhere that we should move. My mum was coming on a trip to Cambodia for her mission stuff, and I went, I'll come with you, and I'll just sort of suss out what options there are, what opportunities there might be. And I came back and just was like, God was just like, no. But you know, that's okay. It is. It's hard. It's hard because you kind of, you think like, well, I'm serving God, like it shouldn't matter where I am, but and that's been like, almost it would be easier for me to be somewhere else on the field right now, but this is where the Lord has us, and so we've had to be very like surrendered to that. So there are privileges, so many privileges of where we are, but hard when all we want to do is be elsewhere.
Be out there. Yeah, it is. The waiting is very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you look back and realise why God needed you to have that season, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Beck.
Yeah.
And God
thank
bless
you.
And I will follow your journey.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing where you guys go. And if you ever come to Cambodia to visit your
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you again. Thanks everybody for thank you everyone for watching and for listening. Please hit subscribe and follow along, all of the good things. Like, it helps us to just reach more women and more mums. So thank you. Bye.
God bless you.